So we are continuing our reflections on Eucharist. It has been happening for the last 3 weeks, then it's the 4th week, and then next week also we have these readings from the Gospel of John, particularly chapter 6 in the Gospel of John. And chapter 6 is all about very Catholic chapter, which is, I am the bread and you have to eat me. It's the ultimate way Jesus making a parable or an image to share who he really is. Now, Eucharist makes us authentically Catholic. My nickname growing up in school was Pastor. I had white uniform dress and blue trousers, and if the teachers ask me, I will get up and speak. So my nickname was Pastor, and people used to invite me into prayer meetings and things because they thought I could ramble. But sometimes I goes to events, I meet up with preachers from other places, and they would say, well, it's well and good you can break open the word, but we don't get really what do you mean by this whole Eucharist. That's where we struggle, Father, with Catholicism. But that's exactly what makes us unique as Catholic, that the Eucharist. We all heard the word therapy, and I think we are these days everyone's quite talk about therapy or goes to therapy, or even we use the word, if we drink a cup of tea, we say, that's my therapy. So the word therapy has come into our culture quite a lot, and it comes from a Greek or Latin, both Greek and Latin word, which means healing. And we have gone so far in our therapy field. Now anything crazy can be even therapy. I will show you a video which you may have seen on your TikTok. Now, we need therapy after watching that. It is a weekend thing for $4,000 for 3 days of doing that. There you go. Now, when I was growing up, I was brought up by my grandfather. He was a huge influence in my life. And he takes me to Mass every day. If I don't get up, he will drag me out of bed. I have to go. And then he would make sure that my gaze is always on the altar. And I will show you the church I grew up with. If you go to the next picture, this is the church I grew up with. So if you look, it's just so gold, and it makes you feel you are in a so different place. Now, Eucharist, when we come to Mass, we have to be in a totally different place. And that's what rituals mean. Rituals are prescribed actions and words which will take us from the ordinary and bring us to an extraordinary place where we elevate our spirit, our mind, our heart, even our body, so that we are in a different place, caught up in a different mystery which we cannot explain. However, we experience through singing, praying, kneeling, through physical, spiritual, emotional connections. Now, I did struggle with sort of why would we have gold in our church. If we look at our altar, it is rather plain. However, we do have a couple of stained glass windows. Because, so what does that relate to a teacher? How does that relate to a doctor? How does that relate to a bricklayer? He comes to Mass, look at this. And what exactly it means when in my everyday life I come to a ritual place where maybe I'm struggling in my life, but when I come to Mass, I transpose myself into a particular reality where I caught up with heaven. My gaze is going from my struggles to something much better. So my perspective, my vision, my goal in life is set. I come to know there is something bigger than me that can control, that can guide my everyday life. So my grandfather always used to say, if you tie yourself to the altar, you wouldn't wander far. If I tie myself to the altar, I wouldn't wander much far. And he would say to me, Bonnie, the way you attend, the way you would be celebrating Mass. When I tell him I would love to be a priest, he used to tell me, the way you attend the Mass would be the way you celebrate the Mass as a priest. And I remember these days, as a priest, even if I go and sit with the people for some events, my biggest therapy is the Eucharist. Is there any other place where we do ritualistic actions, where we gather and process towards here at the cross at the front, which simply means we are on a journey. This is something very different. And the priests wear something like this. It's very Roman culture. The Senate, the Senate leaders process in, and you sit in a special chair, and you may ask, why is this little guy sitting on a special chair? It comes from Roman culture, where the Senate guys come and the judge presider over we took it from the Romans. And then we took it from the Jewish culture also. But as soon as we get here, we say, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. Where does that come from? When the early Christians, they were dealing with Romans. And whenever the Caesar goes to war, he will capture a particular territory. And the people has to turn towards the Caesar. And they have to say, Caesar, you are our king. Caesar, have mercy. Caesar, you are our king. So the Christians, now they knew the king is Christ and he has won the victory. So when they gathered together in catacombs, they would say things, Caesar is not our king. Christ have mercy. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. And we have the candles on the altar. Why would we have candles on the altar? Because the Mass was always said in catacombs. And it was dark. So in order to have light, they use lamps for the catacombs. And that's why we still keep the candles in here. Why would we have an altar? Because they always break the bread on the table of the tombs of the martyrs, or the early Christians, or the tomb of Christ himself. So they would gather around those who lived their life, gave their life as martyrs. On the tomb of the martyrs, they break the bread, they sing the songs, they read from scriptures, and then they go out, become bricklayers, teachers, doctors, but they come back in their daily life. They come together, and then they sing and put their gaze onto heaven and say, it all makes sense. We are here for a higher purpose. And once they sing together, break the bread together, they go out and live their life with hope. So Eucharist is the greatest therapy. Just every time I see the offertory, and sometimes a lot of drama going on. Can you take this? Can you bring this? The first person goes, second person stops, then there drops. But it is the most sacred time. When people of God bring bread and wine, we are actually bringing our stories. So my grandfather used to tell me, Bonnie, when you see the priest lift, you lift your life. What a catechesis I had from my grandfather. When you see the priest lift the bread, you lift your prayers to that. When you see the priest lift the chalice, you lift the chalice to it. Every everything we give to God, He takes it. Everything He takes, He blesses it. Everything He blesses, it transforms and becomes part of God's life. And then He gives it back to His own life so that we can go out and live the journey. What else way we can get if you really tune into the ritual? If you really tune into the ritual, the value behind the ritual is very healing. We come to this Mass. Maybe we are stressed in our life. We come to this Mass. We sing a song about heaven. We sing a song about sacrifice. We give our pain. We see in the action it is being lifted up and being blessed. Then it is given back to us. In all those actions, there is a healing happening. And we feel like, I am heaven bound and I can survive my life because my God is with me, giving me back His life, nourishing me, going with me in the journey. That is why in the first reading we read, when Elijah fought against Jezebel and Ahab. Sometimes Jezebel is a woman married to Ahab's household. She brought a lot of pain. I sat with a lot of families who say, their family was great until my son married this person. Oh, my family was great until my daughter found this boy. Sometimes a lot of inversion happens in our lives. And then Elijah was giving up. God said to him, come away with me, I will nourish you. After nourishing, he got up and walked again. Eucharist is our therapy. Once a week, maybe once in a month, we come, we go through the ritual, we sing, we offer, we see it lifted up, blessed, transformed, and given back to us. We get the food for another week. If we can do it every day, how blessed are we that we have the food for the journey. Thank God for the Eucharist. Amen.